Hold on this. Wonderful. So, hello everybody. My name is Elena and I just wanted to welcome our beautiful guest today. Our guest is Elisa and she's from the Mindful Monti. So we are lucky enough to be having her on our podcast, and she's actually interviewing at the moment from Ontario, Canada. So welcome. Thank you so much for joining us. How are you?
I am doing well. Thank you, Elena, for having me today. It's an honor to be on your podcast and to raise awareness for mental health and supporting moms.
Thank you so much. I'm so grateful. And we've just had a little pre-chat before the podcast. And I'm so excited about this episode because everything you have to say and all the information you have to share to our beautiful mums is so important, because sometimes it can almost sound like common sense, but for a lot of mums, even especially in Australia, we don't have this philosophy. So I would love to share your message to everyone about understanding how to prepare and have a beautiful direction for the family, because essentially, if you can support mums, then you're supporting the whole family unit.
That's right. Yes. So I'm at 43. I have a 16-year-old and a 13-year-old. So it's been a long journey for me. And I'm really excited to be able to support moms. And as I look back on my life experience and knowledge, I want to share and help support, because I don't think, we're still supporting moms in the right way. Like there's a lot of knowledge about pregnancy, there's a lot of knowledge about birth, but still not a lot of knowledge about what happens after.
Yes.
And working with lots of moms and parents, this is what seems to be the struggles. Like, what do I do? I had one mom last year. She said to me, Lisa, same scenario. I prepared, but I was scared to take home my little one because I don't know what to do. And this was in my experience as well. I had 3 postpartum depressions and with anxiety, and navigating it 16 years ago was an experience. An experience. We have so much knowledge now.
Yes.
Can be two-sided, but I think we're lucky to live in this time that we have all this awareness and support, because 16 years ago there was very little and not available. So I felt even more isolated, like something was wrong with me. And how am I going to navigate this? Because I was physically, mentally, emotionally stressed and ill. And I didn't have that support. And I said, there must be a way. I know a lot of childhood trauma comes up when we have our children.
Yes.
A lot of triggers come up. And for me, it was really working towards healing that. But one thing I knew for sure is when I looked at my firstborn and my daughter, I was like, I want to do this different.
Yay.
And and I will find a way, and as I healed and as I learned along with my children, I realized a lot of things. So first thing is, when we decide to start having children, I think we really need to talk about not just the physical, the emotional, the mental.
Yes.
And how to support mom. I wish I knew to set up, like have a few people that you can call, right? To go through the emotional ups and downs and navigating. The importance of rest, even
Yes.
Baby is sleeping, first baby,
Yes.
to sleep because sleep is so essential. And eat well, because your body has to go through physically now to get back to a normal state. You just
Mm,
grew a baby, so eating well and
mm,
all these things together.
mm,
And then I think a lot of things that come up for me is before having children is a good idea to sit down and look at our values.
yes.
And if we have a partner, discussing things,
Mm.
because there was a lot of things I navigated. My first career was I was a hairdresser.
Oh, yeah.
And yeah, so it has long hours and weekends. And then what it didn't fit our lifestyle when I had children, right? Because I
Mm,
had to work right away or else I'd lose my clientele. And I had younger parents, so I couldn't, rely on them to watch, and daycare then comes in, and that's expensive, and not everyone, depending on everyone's home, like, it depends on ours. We couldn't afford daycare, and so
mm,
all these, like, so navigating that, like, what is important to us,
mm,
um how are we going to navigate through, like, maybe our first home will be our home for a bit before we upgrade, because one of us may have to stay home with the children, and
mm.
that's more important. Like, I know when I first got married 20 years ago, it was like a rush to get to the next step,
Yes.
right?
It's
um
so interesting you say that as well, because it's one of the most important things you can ever do in your life is to be a mother and to have children, and there's not enough emphasis on it. And it's difficult because sometimes it feels like, especially, we're just surviving and keeping our head above water. And as you say, sometimes we can't afford it, and I have to sacrifice my career. And then it's a negotiation with my partner. And now looking back on it, all the things I wish I knew, and all the things that I thought were important, but I wish I prioritized. And that would have perhaps helped me along my journey, especially I had postpartum 3 times. It's
right,
difficult. It's so hard.
that's right. But stepping back and looking at the bigger picture,
Mm,
and think some of these questions would be really helpful, right?
yes.
Um, so, for me, I decided then that my career was going to take, second stage. So,
Mm.
but I don't work. So that brought me into childcare,
Oh,
and I
yay.
started daycare at home. And that's where I
Mm.
really learning about child development. But I wanted, I needed an income, and I started researching how to run a daycare from home and starting to put a plan together. And I was helping other families raise their children alongside my own. And that's where I ended up with Montessori. I stumbled upon Montessori, which made all the sense and put all the pieces in.
Mm. That's so
But
lovely. And
yeah,
for
you
everyone
know,
who doesn't understand the philosophy behind Montessori, would you
yes.
be able to explain what it is and what it is about that philosophy that just aligned with you, your ethics, your motherhood, and how it helped other families that you were helping grow their own children?
Definitely. So, to simplify it, because Montessori, I could talk forever about Montessori. There's so many pieces to it,
Mm,
but um, the basis of it is supporting the child on all levels. So the
mm,
whole, so mentally, physically, emotionally, and spiritually. So the whole child, and encompassing the environment, and being able to, in Montessori we say follow the child. So when we follow the child, essentially we have to be able to guide them,
mm.
be present, provide an environment that they can thrive in, and essentially leading them into, like, being able to be self-led, self-directed,
Yes.
and confident in themselves, these little ones, and being able to then confidently make choices and to follow their inner compass, your inner guidance system.
Mm. That's really lovely. I love that little philosophy of follow the child, because I always find it interesting with any child, any baby, they are who they are, and they've got
Yes.
their own little personalities. They are who they are. It doesn't matter what you want to do, that they're going to do what they want to do. So it aligns perfectly, Montessori, follow the child, to be able to be present, provide an environment that they're able to thrive in, so that, as you say, they are confident in themselves and their choices. Because really, even as adults, some mothers don't even have that freedom to be confident in themselves, and mums don't have confidence in their own choices. So
Right.
you're
And that's
beautiful.
what really, like that's why it made all the sense to me. One of
Mm,
her quotes was, help me do it myself. And I'm
yes,
like, because a lot of us mums, I think we want to do it all. And the
yes.
importance of having a family is a team, is a community, your own little community, and how we all play a role in that. And having practical life skills is essential today. We still need to provide these things for ourselves and for our families. So um, that in itself, I think that made so much sense to
Mm.
me and to my
And it's
family, and I think a lot of people can relate, right?
Yeah. And it's so important, as you say, these essential life skills, because especially sometimes when mothers have babies, we then have to start relearning ourselves, because we're not the same person generally as we were beforehand. So I can
That's right.
understand your attraction to this beautiful Montessori, following the child, being able to be present with ourselves, and creating the environment of safety, support, and peace. Is that correct?
That's right.
Hmm. And so when we talk about helping creating an environment, could you explain a little bit more about what that looks like for people who haven't established this, or if this is a new concept to them?
For sure. So, thinking about how our spaces, like do our spaces mean for us? Like we always think of a home as, our standard kitchen, living room, dining room, the kids' bedrooms, our bedrooms, but how do these spaces function for us? Because especially today, as we're redefining what we want, and intentional, or minimalistic, all these things, lifestyles are coming up, is like, I like to say intentionality, because that just
Mm,
more in line, is like we've accumulated a lot of stuff.
yes.
And sometimes we're trying to, we have to clean this stuff, and we have to organize this stuff, and we have an abundance, you know, generally speaking. So stuff has almost over, ruled our lives. And now that we're starting to focus now more on the home and more on the family, we're starting to realize this. And if we're always putting away, and we're always,
Mm,
cleaning up the stuff, we don't have the time we want to spend. So is the first thing, is like defining what our spaces mean to us. How do they work? How can we create functional spaces that work for us, not against us, going
yes.
through our things, right, essentially, and so that we're not spending time looking for them all the time, and being prepared, right? So that we can create a functional space for everyone to participate in. Everybody knows where everything
Mm,
is,
mm,
simplified, and we're not spending so much time taking care of it. We're
mm,
participating now,
mm. No,
taking
that
that
sounds,
time,
that,
spend the cooking a meal together without all the chaos,
yeah.
right?
I think that
Yeah,
sounds really lovely. And from what I'm hearing, it's that shift from being task orientated and then being more, as the word you say, intentionality, into
that's
actually
right.
being intentional in what you and the family need to do together as a team and being more
Hmm.
present with each other, as opposed to what you said earlier was mums want to do it all myself. I want to do it all myself. It's all on my shoulders. I'm so busy. I'm so overwhelmed, the mental load, when really this is like a really lovely shift. You can still do all of that, but if you can focus with the Montessori intentionality theory or principle, instead of being task orientated and alone, we're being intentional and present, but as a group and a team.
That's right. It's becoming more purposeful, right? It's a purpose we all participate in.
I think that's really such a beautiful, amazing philosophy, because the amount of people sometimes that I even listen to that my mum didn't prepare me for this, or I don't know how to do that, or I'm not even. But at least if you're more purposeful and working together as this beautiful family unit, we're all supportive of each other and we all understand collectively how we can contribute with all of our roles and no one's more than the other.
That's right. And I'm really glad you brought that up because this is one thing that I've been really reflecting upon.
Mm,
And our parents didn't provide that for me because we're
mm,
talking about trauma. So I've kind of like I said, reflected upon that. And I think every generation has come from some type of trauma.
yes.
And, and it doesn't matter how big or small trauma affects the brain the same way for everyone. Now, my mom had me at 19. She was a teenager. I came from a blended family. My father wasn't a part of my life. My stepfather essentially raised me, and they did the best they could.
Mm,
What I want to say is we live in such a time, like I said before, of information, which is amazing
mm,
because the generations that came before us didn't have it at all.
mm, mm,
Grandmother, who passed away now 3 years ago, but she came here at 17 years old and
mm,
rebuilt a, and her childhood was war, you know, and I think a lot of it was, my mom, her thing was emotional. Like she didn't have that emotional connection with her parents,
mm,
which kind of rippled onto me. And I didn't feel that as well. So I think that's why this is all coming about is we're starting to understand emotional intelligence and
mm,
where that comes in. But we do have this information now, and giving ourselves and grace and maybe a little bit of grace to some of the generations who didn't have this information at the
mm,
time. I'm not saying that, depending on situations that right or
mm,
wrong, or I'm just giving a perspective
mm.
of don't have this type of support. We don't have knowledge. We can't make change.
Yeah.
We can't support each other. We can't make these new shifts, these new changes for the
Mm,
future. So
mm.
it's really that compassion for ourselves, like I said, and starting slowly. So that's where I like to start off with the here and now. What can I start with? Which is the environment, right?
Yes.
Yes.
I think that's so lovely. And I love it that you can bring in intergenerational trauma because it's so relevant with everything. And I think that sometimes, especially as mothers, with our own little evolution and maturity and trying to learn to be a new mother and how we change, understanding the influences of our own previous generations, being able to look objectively without um, understanding they did the best that they can with the tools that they have. So
That's right.
understanding objectively from what our parents have done, how that's influenced us as mothers, how that's influenced us as people, and how we can essentially heal ourselves and make positive choices for our own children. Because, as you said, the information we have at the moment, sometimes it can feel overwhelming, the volume of information. But if you find something like you have with the Montessori, it can help simplify everything so you can block out external noise and get
That's right.
simplify everything the way that intentionality, more purposeful life, and then letting children be children, letting them follow the child to give them and setting themselves up to be confident
Yeah.
in themselves, as you say, and their own choices, because to back yourself is one of the hardest things to do if no one's ever done that for you. So, what a lovely philosophy that you have, and explaining it so well, and how it can actually relate to every mother, no matter where you live in the world.
That's,
Mm.
thank you.
Mm. And so then, especially if your children are a bit older, how do they feel about everything at the moment with Montessori, their own confidence with you?
Yeah. So, well, my children now are 16 and 13. So they are in their adolescent years. And
Mm.
when I became a Montessori teacher, they were already 9, 8, and 11.
Yes.
So, we talk about the first 6 years, some people say 7 years of life and the foundation, of so knowing a little bit about development is essential, but because I started a little later, we're still navigating. But how I support them with Montessori is asking them still at this age open-ended questions,
Mm.
and spending that time with them, being present, listening. you know how is your day? What are you experiencing? When they're having trouble with friends, you know
Mm.
taking them, sitting down, like, okay, so we're having this problem with a friend, like, what do you think your friend is going through?
Mm.
Why do you think you're having this problem? What can you do to make it a little bit easier or better, or things like this? So navigating in that way,
Mm.
um, also getting them to make more choices so they're confident. Even just simple things of, once in a while we go to a restaurant, letting them order their food, um,
Mm.
them too about money,
Mm.
um, and really contributing to the household, respect. In the Montessori classroom, in the beginning, the foundation, we teach respect for self, respect for others, and respect for the our materials and our environment, and that creates community. So how are they contributing? And
Mm.
not all of it goes well,
Yeah, well, that's the
but
thing. I think so long as everything you can try your best, there's no such thing as a
that's
perfect
right.
parent.
There's no such thing as perfection.
Mm.
Um, and having fun with them. We
Yes.
have to have fun. And this is a time where we get to, relive a little bit of that childlike spirit and have fun with them.
Mm.
Enjoy all these beautiful new things that they're experiencing in life when they're little, and as they grow, because every stage is so different.
Yes.
Um, you know, I think our presence is more important, most important. They want to be heard. They want to know that they have come home, and our house, that your house is your home. They have that space to share. Even if you're arguing,
Yeah.
invite that.
Yeah.
you know I have to then, sometimes I have to apologize to my
Yes.
kid.
All the time, honey.
you
That's
know
what I do
and
too.
what Yeah, because sometimes, we're not perfect. This is so new, and we're not going to get it always right. But if we're trying and we're striving towards something, that's the bigger picture. We're
Mm.
trying to, and so when my kids now point out something to me, I say, "Oh yeah, you're right. I did do that." And, so I'm going to now be more aware of myself and how I'm interacting with you,
But I
right?
think that is the most beautiful example of secure attachment that you could ever have, because
Yes.
it's creating that transparency, removing those power imbalances, and loving each other unconditionally. And also that mutual respect that a child can't understand what how to give respect if they've never received it. And I think everything that you've said, especially what stood out to me the most, our presence is most important because it is their home. And even though mums, we are busy, we have a lot, all the stuff, right? But it is their home. And as a mum, we are the most important person to them in their life, even through teenage, adolescent years, and they don't think they need us anymore. But they do, and it's that beautiful connection that before they leave the nest, knowing that you've set them up to have a lifelong friendship, connection, relationship of mutual respect to them, and that ultimate secure attachment. So I think that's beautiful.
Beautiful. Yes.
Mm.
It's the reciprocity. And, I want them to then one day, when they do leave, to strive for that reciprocity,
Mm.
to make sure it's a give and take in all relationships, right?
Yes,
Whether
yeah, no, completely agree.
friendship, career wise and work relationships,
Mm.
whether it's relationships, there has to be reciprocity, and we have to both take responsibility and accountability and be able
Mm.
to bridge those together so we can start creating healthier relationships overall.
Yeah, I completely agree. And how that can almost then translate to romantic relationships, friendship relationships, work relationships. So I think it's lovely. So I found you on Instagram, the Mindful Monty, Monti, and I loved everything that you were offering. So if especially for everyone listening in Australia, the Mindful Monty as your little business and how beautiful, I want you to be able to let everyone know what you're offering, how you support people, and anything about your business that is really important and we all should know.
Sure. So yes, you can find me on Instagram at the Mindful Monty, or I have my website set up at themindfulmonty.com. And I've taken a little shift of a direction where I had a course of self-awareness, which is what Montessori is all about, but I'm actually redirecting and focusing more on environment. So not just having just one course that fits all, because that doesn't work. And I think that working one-on-one, just like a child, just like we set up an environment to support the child, we have to come up with a plan that supports each individual mom and to her needs and to her family's needs, her child's needs. And so working really one-on-one is important. I think I'll go towards a bit of group coaching or mini courses
Mm.
towards spring and summer. But I think that meeting mom and working essentially virtually, but together, because we need support when we embark on this journey. And I think some self-directed courses are great, but when we're talking about our mental, emotional, physical health and family, I think it's really helpful when we have guidance and we have that support coming, and building relationship, so that we can work together to meet the goals, and supporting the mom as a whole.
No, I think that's lovely because especially for you, when we talk about what you have to offer, it's this wonderful theory of helping create an environment of safety, support, and peace. So families can grow
Yes,
and be present with our children because, as we were saying, environment is not just a plan, it's a holistic perspective. So
that's right.
especially from you, how to prepare and have a direction forward. You might not know the destination, but how to prepare and have a direction forward. And especially for you, how to support mums, because if you support mums, then you support the family unit.
That's right.
So I think, especially for people listening, if everything that you've been saying about being present, following the child, intentionality, and being more purposeful, for you, it all kind of stems and comes down to the environment.
That's
And
right.
it's, and especially if mothers don't know what that looks like, it's nice in theory. So it would be so lovely to seek you out, to find you on Instagram or even on your website. So at least working with you to be able to know what a healthy, holistic environment of safety, support, and peace looks like.
That's right.
Mm. How lucky we are to have you. You know, that needs.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. And how lucky are we to have you, so that we can share your experiences and share our work, and create awareness together.
I think it's very special what you're offering, and I feel like in a world of chaos, a little bit of peace is actually a nice little refreshment,
Yes.
especially starting the new year.
My dad used to say, when he was alive, home is where you hang your hat. And, like you said, there's a lot of chaos, but home should be our safe haven.
Yeah, home should be our safe haven. That's right. So just before we leave, would you like to say anything else, mention anything else?
Oh, I think we did well today. I think I covered all the areas, and yeah, I'm happy with everything we've covered, and
Mm.
I just want to say thank you very much again for having me today and inviting me to your space. And it was a wonderful experience overall.
Oh, that's really lovely. I'm very, very grateful. I feel like what you're offering is so important that anyone that finds you and can implement is so grateful because you are completely correct, especially the Mindful Monti, supporting the child on all levels, physical, mental, spiritual, and encompassing the environment. Because if you can allow your children to be confident in themselves and their choices, it helps you then know that you're setting them up for the best success in life. No matter what happens to you, they're right, they're golden.
Yeah.
So awesome.
And you also gain all these things for yourself,
yes.
which is amazing. Like, even though we may have not have that childhood that we wanted or we needed, but we can give it to ourselves along with our children for the rest of our lives.
Yay. And they say one of the most amazing ways to heal from childhood trauma is parenting your children the way that you wished you were parented.
Yes.
It's that holistic
Yeah.
circle.
We would parent, keeping in mind just one thing, that our children are different from us and they will have different needs. But I think keeping in mind that being present is really what we need to do. And yes, facing some of the challenges just differently, right? Because our needs are different than our children's needs.
I
So
think
just
that's
being,
wonderful. Yes. So I'm going to be able to put everything up on the podcast. So I'm going to put up all your links, all your Instagram information. So if anyone wants to find Elisa,
Elisa, got
Elisa.
it. Thank you.
I was just gonna say I'm dyslexic, so I've had to write that down, and I remembered your name because of the Mona Lisa, and she's so
Thank you.
lovely. So thank you so much for coming on today. Everyone, please go out and find her and follow her on Instagram because she's got the most amazing information, and I think it's a wonderful philosophy every mother needs to have. So thank you again so much, and I hope you have a lovely day.
Thank you.